Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 17th episode of the Whimsy podcast. With me, my name is Zena, if my pronouns are they, them. I am happy that you are here with me. This is my YouTube channel where we talk about all things knitting and some other stuff thrown in at the end as well, reading and other hobbies. I'm happy you're here. Just go ahead and settle in, grab a drink, grab a snack, grab a project to work on. Let's hang out for a little while. How are you? How was your week? Mine was long. Working a lot of overtime at work, but also getting a lot of time done for crafting, which is really nice. It's nice to have both. So, with that, let's go ahead and get into it. We'll start things off with the pig parade. If you are new, one of the things I do to decompress after my 9-hour shifts is I knit a tiny pig. I knit the Chichester the Pig pattern by Helen Apocalypse or Apocalypse Knits, and I have 3 this week. These are my marvelous little babies, and I love them so much. I'll show you them individually. I'm finding that I really enjoy the ones that I made with palette. This is one of my palette yarns. Actually, this yarn was in a project that I've realized I'm never going to finish. So I just cut it right off the main project and made a pig with it. Because I was like, I'm going to frog this. I'm not going to finish it. It's, the project, I showed it in the very first episode and you've never seen it again. It's called the Circadian Cowl. It's a very, very pretty pattern. It's lovely. It's wonderfully written. No problem with the pattern itself. All of the problem with the fact that I don't want to knit it. I want to knit socks. So I'm gonna frog it. I'm gonna frog it and pretend it never happened. I also really love the color of this one. I love like that neon mint color. This is also a palette. The other one is not. This one, you will see this yarn again later. Spoiler. So those are my piggies. The next thing we have is finished objects, and I do have one. I have this pair of lovely socks. This is for a friend of mine. This is my standard kind of sock recipe. I don't follow a pattern. I do 10 rounds of 2x2 ribbing for the cuff. I do 30 rounds for the leg. I do a slip stitch heel. And then I do however many rounds I need for the foot and a square toe. I do 56 stitches on size 1 flexi flips. That's what works best for me. I have kind of a large gauge on those compared to using other types of needles. And I use that to my advantage because less stitches means faster socks. The colors I use for this, for the contrast color, it is Red Tail from Stroll from Knit Picks. And then the main color, I forget the exact colorway, but I can tell you it's from Blue Barn Fiber and it is on the squishy sock base. This is one of the oldest yarns that's been in my stash. So I'm very excited to see it at least partially leave. I have enough yarn left over to make like at least 1 more pair of socks, possibly 2 more pairs of socks. So there's that. But yeah, these are these socks. I was a little bit worried they would come off like camouflage. They look slightly like camouflage here, but there's a lot of like purples and deep tones in here that make it look very much like a, not spooky, but just very cozy fall vibes and not camouflage. So if you're looking at it and you're like, that feels like Carhartt, they don't look like Carhartt under proper lighting. And that's my finished pair of socks. We're now going to move on to works in progress, and I have 2. Very simple this week. So in this bag, which is my socks for people who are not me bag, I have a finished sock. Let me hold it up close. This pattern is the Veering Off Course pattern by Alindria Knits. I'm in her make along for the summer, and let me see if I can show it a different way. Actually, no, I will show the other partial one. This was on sale for her on her blog a couple weeks ago. Like, it was like a Ravelry link, but it was like the coupon was through her blog. And so I bought it and was like, oh my god. And I love this pattern. It is a 2-row repeat. kind of some basic chevron in there, but obviously it's like, on different sides for each one. And I'm really, really enjoying this pattern so much. I almost actually started another pair of these yesterday, and then was like, no, I think I want to knit plain. But it was an actual like decision I had to make of whether or not to just make 2 pairs in a row of the same pattern, because I'm enjoying it so much. So if you're looking for like a chevron pattern, I definitely recommend this one. I have changed the pattern a little bit. The original pattern is for a shorty sock that does not have a leg portion. I think because if you look at the cuff itself, the pattern makes the cuff do wonky things. And so I think that's why the designer was like, let's make these a shorty and have that design start like on the foot. I didn't want to knit socks that short, especially for someone else. Every time I have made socks that are shorty socks for someone else, every single time they've been like, it's too short, I'm not going to wear them. So, and I hate editing socks. I don't want to pick the stitches back up. I don't want, like, when it's done, it's done. I would rather knit someone a different pair of socks than have to fix the sock I've already finished and cast off. Like, and that's just me. That's just my personal vibes. But yeah, so I was not going to make a shorty pair of socks to give to someone else. So I added a leg portion. I think it looks fine. And yeah, I also edited this because this is like, I feel like some deep lore. I've mentioned it a couple times, but my stockinette is purl. So when I do vanilla socks, I purl the entire sock. I don't do knit stockinette. So when I have to do lace, that means I also have to like get a scrap piece of paper and write down like which decreases are left leaning, which ones are right leaning, and then translate like knit 2 together is purl 2 together, and slip slip knit is slip slip purl, and like figure out which stitch I'm doing for what and then move forward. Which is totally on me. I'm just like that. I just take being left-handed, make it my personality, and do everything backwards. So, yeah. Yeah. But once you get that and like, the chances of someone watching this who also purls everything is very minimal, but just in case that is also you, once you figure out the writing, like, you just write down like 3 things and it's fine after that. It's just like any other pattern. So yeah, I'm really enjoying those. And then yesterday was Friday, which means I cast on a new pair of socks and I went a little bit wild. Oh wait, no, before I move on, one more thing. This sock, this gray, is this peg. And if you're wondering how that worked out, one of the things I do, because I am lazy and I also know how much yarn I need at any given point, if I start a new ball of yarn, I always pull it from the center if it is already wound. And if I get a whole bunch of yarn barf, I just cut it. There's no unwinding it back around the ball and then like having it be kind of like an outer pull before it becomes a center pull. I'm not doing that. I am also not going to just try to like work from that yarn barf and like stuff it back in the ball and hope it doesn't get knotted. I've done that before. I'm not doing it again. So unless like half of the ball comes out, I'm going to cut it off and I'm just going to put it in scraps, and that's fine. It's not a concern of mine. And so I took the yarn barf out and then realized I can make a pig with it. So I did. And that's why we have that one already. I will probably give that to my friend along with the socks I'm making for her. And I am making those socks in exchange for a little knit beret in the style of a spider web, which I'm very excited about. Anyway, yesterday was Friday. So in my bag that's socks for me, I started a sock, and I went a little bit nuts because I was watching a documentary and it was like a 4-part docuseries, and I was like, oh my god, and I was so invested. I watched the whole thing, and then I watched some YouTube, and Anyway, so I started this sock literally yesterday at like 11, and this is from the same yarn dyer as the yarn I didn't talk about in the earlier socks. So the earlier sock yarn is King of the North from the Lord of the Rings collection from Tiny Human Knits. This is another one from Tiny Human Knits and the same collection, Lord of the Rings, and this is So It Begins. And I am obsessed. I've had this yarn since 2023. So it is old stash for me. And I have a whole bunch of them, and for a while I think I was like, these are so fancy and specific and they make me so happy. I was like afraid to work with them. And now I'm getting a whole lot of joy of knitting them all up and just like seeing how the yarn turns out. And I did not know that this was going to be a fade. And I'm so thrilled with the way that it fades. Like it just feels like dawn, you know, it's like the dawn of the third day vibe, which I know it's not named after that specific scene, but it is how it feels. And I love these. Also, for the size of sock that I wear, almost the size of shoe, but that doesn't make sense. For the size of sock that I wear, my final stripe on this will actually be the yellow, and then I'll switch to the gray for the toe. And so my socks will end up matching without me having to do any special work, because that's just my foot size. So I'm really excited to have this matching set of socks. I'm having a great time. I think I'm not committed to this because my wrist hurts a little bit today after making like almost a whole sock yesterday. I have 15 rows left on the foot, and then I just have a toe. I think that's right. No, actually I have 20 rows. I have 20 rows left, and then, which is an hour of knitting, and then a toe, which is 45 minutes of knitting for me. I'm not committed to this, but I am thinking about doing a Lord of the Rings rewatch this weekend while I knit a bunch of Lord of the Rings socks. Because I could do that. No one could stop me. And then I could die happy. So anyway, that's all of my knitting right now. Let's talk about things I have been reading, listening to, and watching, because it is many, many things. I finished 2 audiobooks while I was working this week. I started 2 more. I also watched a movie and a full docuseries this week. And I started listening to a radio station again, which I also want to talk about. So, my audiobooks, I finished Memories of Ice by Steven Erikson. It was so good. It was so good. This is possibly my favorite of the series. To be fair, I've only read the first 3, and this is the 3rd one, so it's better than the first one, and then the second one is just awful. The second one, I think you can just skip. You don't need to read it. It's a whole experience. The 3rd one is so good. So good. The next book I read was Transmuted by Eve Harms. It is a novella, and it is kind of a trans body horror retelling of Frankenstein from Igor's point of view. And oh my god, this might be the best book I've read this month, possibly the best book I've read this year. I was walking around work with my jaw fully dropped as this book kept going, because it was so good. It's so creepy. It's so visceral. It's so gory. It's about this trans femme woman who is she's a streamer and she's like just raised enough money to get like a feminization surgery because she struggles with really bad body dysphoria. And I will say, if you are trans and you have a lot of body dysphoria, those are the words we use. Um, you you may not want to read this one because it will feel very triggering. That is not something that I really struggle with, and I was like, I feel anxious just listening to this, and this is like not an issue for me. So it's a little bit rough, but I think very like it needs to be there at the same time because like you're like, yes, this is very relatable. Um, anyway, so she struggles a lot with that, and she gets the money for it. She's about to book the surgery, and then her dad, who is not very supportive at all, happens to be dying of cancer, and there's like this quack treatment that requires exactly the money she needs for her surgery. And she basically gets guilted and manipulated into paying for his experimental cancer treatment rather than getting her surgery. And she's like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Like, all of my supporters are going to be really upset that I don't have the money and I didn't get the surgery. Now I can't show my face. And so, but she gets an ad. She gets like a really sketchy ad for like a feminization treatment that's experimental and is free. So she signs up for it, and at first it's going really, really well. And she's like, getting the body she wants, and she looks great. She looks incredibly femme, like she's doing awesome. And then she gets a second treatment, and she starts mutating. And I think I'm going to leave it there because I don't want to spoil anything else, but it goes unapologetically body horror. And as she mutates and as she becomes something that she did not want to be, and is just kind of unrecognizable even as a human. And it was so good. It was so good. I can't. So there's that. I would definitely recommend it if you're into horror. If you're not into horror, maybe don't. Because you're not gonna have a good time. But if you like that visceral, gory like reaction or like experience, like you just gotta. I also started 2 more audiobooks. One of them is through Libby, the other one is through Libro FM, and so it's been kind of fun because every time I get in my car, a different app decides which audiobook I'm going to listen to in the moment, which is pretty funny. So I'm starting A Master of Jinn, which I've been meaning to read since 2021, and I own 2 physical copies of it, and I started reading the second physical copy of it because I can't get to the first one right now. It's like in my garage. And it's good. I'm really enjoying it. It takes me a long time to read it for some reason. So yesterday I was like, oh, I can get the audiobook of this. So I downloaded the audiobook from Libby and I've been listening to that. And I'm really enjoying the audiobook. Actually, I think I like the audiobook better than the physical one. So that is kind of my main squeeze one because I know that one's due back at the library in 3 weeks. Yes. And then the other book I'm listening to, I own, and I've already listened to it before. In fact, I've read it physically and I've listened to it before, and I definitely recommend the audiobook for it. And that is Black Tongue Thief by Christopher Buehlman. Black Tongue Thief is probably one of my favorite fantasy books. It's so stupid. It's this satire on fantasy. And it's about this guy who went to basically like the College of Thieving and learned all these really cool techniques on how to be like a master thief. And now he owns the Thieves College a bunch of money that he can't pay back. So he's basically like defaulting on his student loans. And so they basically force him into espionage against a foreign country to pay off his student debt. And he basically has to team up with Equate brand Baba Yaga and Equate brand Morrigan. And there are people who have tattoos that are magical. There are battle ravens the size of stags. And there are no horses for some interesting reason. It is very, very good. I highly recommend it. The audiobook even has music, and they like got actual performers to like perform the music for it. It's also read by the author, and the author like works Renaissance fairs and stuff outside of being an author, so he really performs it up and like plays it really well, and it's a really fun audiobook. So I'm really enjoying that. That's kind of like a little comfort read for me right now. Anyway, that's everything I am reading. As far as listening, I also this week remembered, here's some deep lore about me. Way back when I was in high school and I had my first car, I realized very quickly that I hate the sound of radio DJs. And I hate the sound of radio ads. Like it literally, like, I can feel it in my muscles. I can feel it in my bones. I do not like this noise. There is something about the frequency or like the pitch of their voice. I do not like it. So way back in the day, my very first car was a 98 Saturn. It did not have a CD player, and I don't like driving in silence. I'm better with it now than I used to, but I really used to not do driving in silence. So because I hate the sound of DJs and ads and just people talking on the radio, I hate it. So I used to listen to the classical station all the time because they would just play classical music, and then they would be like, this is the song it was, and then they would move to the next song, and that was it. And I was like, this is great, I love this. So I ended up listening to just the classical music station for like almost a year. And then I obviously don't do that anymore. I also don't live in the same place, but I was thinking about that the other day with kind of nostalgia, and I was like, I have the internet. I can stream this old radio station and just listen to it whenever I want. So I did that for a couple nights this week, and it was like while I was knitting, and it was the most charming and cozy thing I have done in ages. Just to listen to like classical music and knit a sock, and it's on public radio, so they were running a whole bunch of announcements that were like, we don't have any funding, and I was like, that's stressful. But what are you gonna do? So I'm really enjoying that. Also, every Tuesday they do they feature concerts from the Sarasota Orchestra, and that was really exciting to listen to because that just, like, you know, reminds me of home. And so yeah, I was really enjoying that. So I'm going to continue, I think, trying to listen to WSMR 89.1 in the evenings at least once a week, and just, you know, decompress and knit some socks and listen to classical music and pretend that I'm really cultured, even though I am like a factory worker who, you know, is very uncultured. So there's that. I also watched some things this week. This is gonna sound dumb, and that's okay. I realized earlier this week for the first time that Disney Plus has all of the Disney shows. It does not just have current shows. It does not just have popular shows. It has everything. Everything. So, all of the shows I didn't get to watch as a child, and they are many, if they're Disney, they're available. Like, I can go back and watch Balto, which I've never seen. I can go back and watch Pocahontas, which I've never seen. I've also never seen Beauty and the Beast or Hunchback of Notre Dame. Dom? I've never seen, like, there's so many. So many. I know I just listed like 4. I made a spinner on my phone, and it already has like 48 options, and I think less than 10 of them are things I have already seen and would enjoy rewatching. And all of the rest of them are things I have never seen, because I didn't watch a whole bunch of things as a child. And it's true, like, even now, I don't watch things. I have not gone to the movie theater since before the pandemic. Like, it's 2025. It's been 5 years since I've seen a movie in a movie theater. I don't watch things. But I can watch things. No one is stopping me from watching, like, everything that was on, like, an ad at the end of a VHS for a movie that I did have. I can go back and watch that now, and I don't just have to, like, wait forever. So I think I'm temporarily becoming a Disney adult. And I'm really excited to just kind of temporarily put a pause on not watching things and like go back and watch a whole bunch of things. So I started this week. I started with Oliver and Company, which I have seen before. It was one of the VHSs that we actually owned when I was a child. And I remember every time I watched it, I always felt a little bit uncomfortable. And I wasn't really sure why. And then I watched it. And I was like, oh, well, as an adult, I'm really upset. Actually, I'm crying a lot. It's a retelling of Oliver Twist, and it is so upsetting and so depressing and not how the world works in any sort of way. The music's good. The music's great. Not a good place to start. So yeah, I watched that, and I'm good. I don't ever need to watch that again. And yesterday, while I was poking around Disney, one of the things that I do like watching, they have some documentaries that are like the series. It's like The Secrets of the Octopus, The Secrets of the Whales. They're made by James Cameron, and they're incredibly good. And so I was trying to see if they have any more of them. So all I put in was like Secrets of, and I was just like scrolling, and I'm like, where are more of them? And one of the things that showed up in that search was about Hillsong. And I grew up as an evangelical Christian in a church that was an old movie theater and had strobe lights and a fog machine. And so therefore we played a lot of Hillsong songs. And I was like, this seems like a great way to recontextualize my personal religious trauma. I'm going to watch this. And let me tell you, that docuseries, for the parts where they talk about Hillsong, New York, could have been about my church. The only thing that they needed to change out, and I mean like the only things they needed to change out, where they needed to scale it back for rural Florida. And there was one other thing that was different. But mostly it was just like they needed to scale it back. And then our pastor himself was like not the charismatic guy. It was like everybody else on the worship team. But he preaches the exact same way. The lighting is the exact same. The pictures of the crowds, exact same. Like, at one point in the docuseries, they showed like a random pastor at one of the satellite churches being like telling the crowd like, oh, we're going to watch the announcements now. And then he like turns to this giant screen, and I flinched because I was like, I thought my church was the only one who did that. And they pre-record the announcements. They have somebody else pre-record the announcements. And then on Sunday morning or on Saturday night, because they did 4 services a week, the pastor would like prompt like the audience to like watch the announcements on the screen, and then would like turn and like watch the announcements like with everyone. Yeah, because it needed to save him work because he was so busy taking care of such a massive congregation that he had to have 4 services every weekend, and some of them are getting full. Yeah, I'm like, oh, this this is really relatable. So that's why I knit almost an entire sock yesterday. But it was a really good documentary. It was fascinating. Also, I think it's really funny that the pastor they were talking about in the beginning, the one who like baptized Justin Bieber, he lives in Sarasota now, and I was like, of course he does. Like, of course that's where he ended up. Like, yep. Anyway, I am just rambling at this point. So I think I'm going to end it here now that I have shared a bunch of deep lore about myself on a podcast about knitting. If you weren't into it, you would have stopped earlier or something. I hope you would have. Anyway, don't hate watch me. Don't hate watch YouTube. Don't do that. Anyway, for real, now I'm rambling. So I hope you have a great week. I hope you have some whimsy in your day. And I will see you next time. Bye.